Hello everyone. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be participating in the time-honored bookish tradition of the mid-year book tag, which, if you're new here, is basically just answering a bunch of questions about the books you've read so far this year. I'm very excited. I cannot wait to tell you all some of my favorite reads, newest fictional crushes, anticipated books, and so much more. If y'all are new here, hi, thank you for clicking on me. I'm Elena, use she, her pronouns. I from Seattle. I love books, which, should probably be kind of obvious, kind of a given. But yeah, hi, thank you for being here. So, since this is a mid-year book review, I thought I'd quickly share what my reading goals are this year. Basically, I want to read 25 books this year. This is my goal last year as well, if you were around then. I am a slow reader, a dyslexic reader. I'm a college student, have worked a job for a while, don't have a ton of time, but that's okay. Still love reading, and I'm still gonna make videos about books. So far this year, I've read 11 books, which, I'm pretty happy with. I'm pretty happy with that. So, yeah. And, great if you read more than that a year. Please be nice to me in the comments. I do my best. So let's start. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? I'm ready. All right. Question number 1. Best book you've read so far in 2025. Starting off with a impossible question. Y'all, this is hard. Okay. I have a 3. I have top 3. Top 3. Let's do it. It's not in a particular order, just so you know. This is the first one that I finished this year out of these 3, so I'm going to be talking about it first. This is Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. It is the second book in the Legendborn series. I believe there's going to be 4 books. So good. I don't even know what to tell you all about this book because it's just amazing. But basically, Bree is a teenager, recently lost her mom. She lives in the South. She is going to a college program for, it's kind of like Running Start if you're familiar with that, but basically she's living on a college campus as a high school student and she's taking college classes, pretty much the vibe. And she's there with her best friend. They go to a party one night, and Bree, our main character, sees some wacky, crazy monster stuff going on. And then she also sees some fellow students fighting said crazy monsters. And she's like, the hell? After that happens at the party, she is then taken by the students she sees fighting the monsters, and her memory is supposedly erased. However, it doesn't work on her, which I was like, what? Oh my god, really? Okay. And when this happens, Bree realizes the feeling of the magic they used on her is very similar to the feeling and the weird sensation she had the day her mother died when she was in the hospital being told what happened. And so she wonders, could there have been magic utilized then? Basically, she joins kind of like a secret society. There's demons. There's kind of a love triangle-ish going on. It's very good, and I feel like Tracy Deonn does a wonderful job talking about grief, talking about what it's like to be kind of an outsider in this community, especially since in this sort of secret society-esque organization, it's very white, very old money, very southern. And Bree is obviously a young black teenage girl. She does not fit into this society. And she talks a lot about what that's like. And she's great. You gotta love Bree. So yes, pick this up. This is the second book, which I thought was pretty much just as good as the first book. And yeah, I'm not going to tell you much about the second book other than characters are expanded upon, magic is expanded upon, the plot in the world is expanded upon. It's just a beautiful second installment. Next, we're going to talk about the second book that is one of my favorites of this year so far. I read this when did I read this book? A few months ago, May-ish? I listened to the audiobook, so it'll be up here somewhere. This book is How to Tell When We Will Die by Johanna Hedva. It's basically a long-awaited collection of personal and theoretical essays exploring disability and society. Johanna Hedva talks about what it's like growing up disabled, what it's like living in a capitalist world that doesn't value people based on their worth, but values people based on what their bodies can do, how much they can produce, the money they can make. And it's so interesting. I will say, please look at the trigger warnings. And if you're squeamish, perhaps don't read this book or listen to it. There are some parts of this that I was a little taken aback by, and I was like, wow, we're talking about this. Okay, sure. But a lot of it is just very reassuring to hear someone else talk about these things that I've experienced in a very different way than Johanna Hedva, but still similar enough to where I can see where they're coming from, relate to some of it, and understand other pieces. Anyways, I really appreciated reading this book, and I think you should pick it up. Okay, so I just finished this book, so I would put this book as like my favorite so far, but since I just finished it, I think that's kind of unfair. This book, Iron Widow by Shirin J. Zhao. I am hoping I am pronouncing their name correctly. I did lots of Googling and listening because I don't speak Mandarin. But anyways, this book, Iron Widow, is truly fabulous. It is a reimagining of a lot of historical elements of Chinese culture and society within this new fantasy world where people have to fight against these alien creatures who have come to Earth to take over, basically. And to fight these creatures, people must go into these chrysalises, which is basically just like a big robot, pretty much. And there has to be 2 people for each big robot. One of them has to be a woman and one a man, and that helps to balance out the chi, which this book is very focused upon, chi and how it is utilized, and so good. Basically, if you're interested in stories about female rage, you should read this book. If you're interested in stories that kind of break the heteropatriarchy, you should read this book. It's really great, guys. It's really great. It is a reimagining of the only woman emperor of China, and that is what the main character is based off of, Wu Zetian, and so good. Please pick this up. Please pick it up. It is so good that, in fact, I listened to the audiobook at first and I had to go buy the real book and finish reading it physical style. Please read this book. It's so amazing. Best sequel that you've read so far in 2025 is the second question. So this one was also kind of hard for me, is between Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn, which I just showed you all, and Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune, which is the second book, the sequel. It's the sequel to House on the Cerulean Sea, and both were great. Somewhere Beyond the Sea, I felt was a great like continuation, a little more political, a little bit more found family in there. I really enjoyed it, but I think I again have to go with Blood Marked by Tracy Deonn. I just felt this was necessary for the series. I didn't really feel that Somewhere Beyond the Sea was necessary. I think you could 100% read um, House in the Cerulean Sea and not read Somewhere Beyond the Sea, and you would be totally fine. This is obviously extremely necessary for the story and the characters, and a great continuation of the storyline, and I loved it. So, question 3 is new release you haven't read yet but want to. So, there are multiple new releases that I really want to read. I'm sure this is a shocker to you all, but I really want to read Blood Marked by Tracy Deonn, which is the third book in the Legendborn series. And I also want to read Heavenly Tyrant, which is the second book in the Iron Widow series. I want to read both of those very badly. There's also The Pairing by Casey McQuiston, which is a love story, kind of per usual. That's kind of Casey McQuiston's thing, isn't it? I do not own any of them currently. I'm not sure when I will be reading them. Hopefully the 2 sequels I will be reading soon because I love the series and I don't like not reading sequels as soon as I can. I'm just weird like that. I want the series to stay connected. I like this question. I feel like I have a good answer. Okay. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. A Witch's Guide to A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. Powerful British witch resurrects her aunt, loses her magic in the process, or at least part of it, befriends a villainous talking fox, and begrudgingly now helps her aunt run her inn. And she may or may not fall in love with an icy magical historian. What more could you want? A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping comes out July 25th. So the next question, biggest disappointment of the year so far. Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper was a disappointment. Now, I don't typically like being harsh to books. But y'all, I was so excited for this book. I got it at the Ripped Bodice in LA. I was so excited. So slight backstory. I took a class on romance novels and like the history of them and why they're important, and it was actually really interesting. And we went to the Ripped Bodice as a class, and my professor was like, Elena, you should read this book, because we were talking about what kind of books we like, and I was like, I'm always in for a little witchy fantasy story. And I was also like, I like queer books because I am a queer woman, so kind of a given. And she was like, Elena, you should read this, one of my favorite series. And I was like, okay, sure, we have pretty similar tastes. Like, she loves Gwen and Art Are Not in Love. I love Gwen and Art Are Not in Love. She loved Red, White, and Royal Blue. I love Red, White, and Royal Blue. So I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. Did not like it. This was a letdown. It wasn't like the worst book I have ever read. It wasn't that bad. You might love it. Just wasn't my thing. Basically, our main character, I don't remember her name. Emmy? Emmy. That's her name, isn't it? Emmy? Yeah. Emmy grew up in a small magical town, and after high school, her boyfriend cheated on her, I believe, and basically she was just like, you know what? Last straw. I already hate this town. I already am mad that my magic isn't as powerful as most other people's, and so I'm just gonna leave. So she left and went to college and now has a job. I want to say she lives in Chicago, but to be so honest, I have no idea. And she comes back after 10 years to arbitrate. Yeah, that's the word, right? To arbitrate a trial between different people in the main houses, like the main families, basically, of her small town. And so much potential. Her best friend and her love interest team up against her high school boyfriend, and basically they all have been wronged by this man, and they're like, let's get revenge. Y'all, witchy small town revenge sapphic novel. But I didn't like it. It has everything I would like on paper, but unfortunately, it was too slow. The romance wasn't doing anything for me. I don't care about Emmy. She kind of was a bit of a whiner. Like, oh, I'm so sorry your magic isn't as powerful as the other three main families. Like, that sucks. I don't know what to tell you. Is that why you ran away for 10 years? Like, anyways, that's the biggest disappointment. See, I don't like saying this book was a disappointment, but I feel like looking back, Cultish by Amanda Montell, listen to this audiobook, wasn't a disappointment. It didn't feel like everything it could have been. Basically, this book, Cultish, is where Amanda Montell, the author, goes through all these different phenomena that she considers to be cult-ish. And so she does talk about real cults and what makes a cult. She also talks about like MLMs, multi-marketing schemes. She talks about things like Peloton, and it's all very interesting. It hasn't stuck with me the way that a lot of other nonfiction books do stick with me, but while reading it, it was really interesting. So I guess it's not really a disappointment. I just wish that there had been something else that really stuck out and that I was really into. Perhaps if I had read the physical version, I could have like highlighted and maybe learned a bit more and had it stuck in my brain, but just my opinions. So this is actually, I think, my favorite question. Okay, biggest surprise of the year. Are you ready? The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I ended up really liking this book. I know what you're thinking. How has it taken you this long to read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo? Haven't you heard that book is extremely popular, especially among queer people? Didn't you know that, Elena? Didn't you know that? And I will tell you, yes, I did. I think I was kind of like not into reading it because it was so popular. And then all of my friends for the past like 3 years have been telling me, Elena, you have to read this book. It's amazing. It's so good. One of my friends even said, she's like, I'm straight. And even I read that book. Even I loved it. You have to read it, Elena. Here we are. I have officially read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And this was a surprise to me. For some reason, everyone was saying that it was so good. I thought I was going to be happy. I was not happy when I finished this book. I was not. No. No, 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 no. No. But that's okay. Good books don't have to make you happy. I just was surprised by the fact that I was sad when I finished it. Basically, I was just surprised. About like everything in this book, and the ending shocked me. I will say I'm slightly disappointed in the portrayal of queerness like closer to the end. I don't understand why Evelyn felt the need to have someone else write her memoir for her after she died. That's part of it. She's like, you're not allowed to release this memoir that you're writing for me until after I have died. And I don't quite get that. If you want people to know your story, if you want people to know the true you, why not tell your own story for yourself? But I still thought it was really beautiful, and I think a lot of the decisions made by the characters make a lot of sense, even if they're kind of tragic. And yes, I'm essentially hopping on the Evelyn Hugo train, and I think you should read it if you haven't read it yet. So another biggest surprise, I kind of mentioned this briefly, But my second biggest surprise is Iron Widow by Shirin J. Zhao. And I kind of just started the audiobook of this on a whim. My girlfriend has this book, and she was like, I'm excited to read it at some point. And so I was like, I think this is what she said would be a good book. So I just decided to start the audiobook. And I fell in love. I kind of just wanted a high fantasy. I don't even think I read the synopsis, like what it's about. So I just started it. And then I fell in love with our murderous main gal, and I just had to go buy the book and finish it, reading style. And also the ending was a shock to me. So that was very surprising. That was a big surprise. Yeah, those are the two most surprising books I have read this year for slightly different reasons. Pretty different reasons. Newest fictional crush is the next question. I honestly don't think I can really say. I don't really have one. I will say while I was reading Legendborn, I kind of was like Selwyn, who, by the way, is a demon. Or he's sorry, he's half demon. Excuse me. He's half demon. He has like black curly-ish hair. Oh, he's here. I have him right here. That sounds he's right here, guys. That is Mr. Selwyn Kane, which, by the way, is not how I imagine him at all. He has black, like, kind of wavy, scruffy hair, dark. Actually, I think he's golden eyes. He's like golden, glittering eyes. That's right. And he's just kind of like a bad boy, kind of an asshole. But he has character development. He starts to care. And, he's not going to let anyone in. Like, keep up your walls sort of a deal. And, in real life, I would never fall for a man like that. Because, ew. But I'll admit, I was a little like, this tattooed, half-demon, golden-eyed, dark-haired bad boy sounds kind of hot. So I guess I'll give you guys that one. I don't think any of the other characters were really that attractive to me. Yeah. I think maybe Alice, from Legendborn. She's super witty. She's very intelligent. She has little quips. She's super loyal and passionate and will learn anything. She's really cool. I could definitely, if she's more in the next book, I could definitely see me falling more for her. So that's what I would say for fictional crushes. The newest favorite character is next. Bree from Legendborn. Oh my god, guys. I know. But Bree from Legendborn, her rage and her grief and her fears were so real and they felt so tangible, and also her loyalty. So much friend and family loyalty within these books. I really love it. I'll also say Wu Zetian from Iron Widow. She's so fiery, she's so murderous, and there's also a lot of very human qualities to her that are not murderous female rage. I really liked her as well. I think also from Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I love Henry Cameron. I love him so much. I don't want to talk about it. I also really like Cecilia St. James. Cecilia. That's her whole name. Celia. I liked Celia a lot. She made me happy. Except there's one thing that she did in this book and I was like, girl, I don't think I can forgive you for that. But yeah, lots of new favorite characters happening this year. So books that made you cry is the next question. I used to cry a lot during reading, but I don't really do it a whole lot anymore. But I will say books that had me tearing up. Certainly The Reformatory by Tenarative Dew. I thought this was very well written, very good. It is about a young boy named Robbie. I think I've talked about this before, but in case you're new or you're like, I don't remember this book, Elena, what do you mean? Basically, this is about a young boy named Robbie. He's growing up in 1950s Florida. He lives with his older sister, Gloria, and they are both young black kids. And this becomes a bit of an issue in the eyes of the law when Robbie does something that any 7-year-old boy would do to protect his older sister. He kicks someone in the shin, or in the knee, I think. He kicks him in the knee. And because Robert is a young black boy, and because his father is an activist, he was basically taken to jail and then sent to the reformatory, which is basically just like a work camp for children who did something that the law deems bad, pretty much. It's supposed to reform you and teach you through labor and God and school. And but it's not that at all. In this reformatory, there are ghosts of kids who have died there. There is a very terrifying warden of the reformatory. There are friends that Robbie starts to make. There are enemies that he makes, all while trying to figure out, can he escape? Can he survive the reformatory? What is he going to do? Meanwhile, his older sister Gloria, who I don't remember how old she is, maybe like 15-ish. She is in the town trying to do anything she can to get Robbie back home. And anything she can do includes things like trying to hire lawyers, trying to contact the ACLU, trying to figure out if there's possibly a way to break Robbie out. And very good. I had kind of a hard time at some points with books that are based off of reality or things that have actually happened. I get very emotional sometimes because I'm like, wow, some children have actually gone through similar things. Perhaps not the ghost things, but a lot of the other horrors that Robbie experienced in the reformatory were very real for lots of people. And that's hard to read sometimes. Very necessary, I think, but also very difficult. And yes, so that made me tear up for those reasons. How to Tell When We Will Die by Johanna Hedva also made me tear up because there are some parts of it that I felt very innately connected to, that I just was like, wow, someone else gets it, like, that's great. I also listened to this audiobook, so I haven't been able to go back through and find those specific parts, but there's a lot of it. Like, how people are basically, I mentioned this before, but how people are basically seen as worthy based on how much work they're able to perform, their productivity. And with people who are disabled, sometimes we can't be productive. Like, we can't be as productive as other people a lot of the time, and that's okay. And we need to find self-worth in other things we do, like our activism, like our art, our friendships, our family, things like that. And I just thought that was quite beautiful. Another disability audiobook I listened to, Disability Visibility by Alice Wong. This is a short story and essay collection from a ton of disability activists, and it is all organized and edited by Alice Wong herself. There were parts of this that definitely made me tear up a little bit because of how relatable and beautiful it was. I'd say most of this wasn't specifically, like, I couldn't specifically relate to a lot of it. It was about a lot of, like, people with physical disabilities, and, you know, I have, like, dyslexia, ADHD, dyscalculia, some, like, mental health things, and some physical stuff, too. So I related more to the very few things on neurodivergence. I especially really liked this one short story about this author who had a concussion and now has a very difficult time looking at a screen for too long because her concussion was so severe and hasn't quite healed all the way. And she cannot transfer her written book onto the computer. It takes way too much brain power to just sit in front of a screen. and so much brain power to edit a novel that she just cannot do it, physically cannot. And so she asks one of her friends, who is also disabled, if she will do it for her, if she will transcribe the book, basically. And I just thought that was so lovely. The caring that we do in the disabled community is just so beautiful, and the community that we make within these creative ways to overcome challenges. And I just thought that was great. And also, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo made me cry. What can you do? I cannot tell you why, or else I will spoil the entire book. So I'm just going to say there are very emotional parts and very sad parts and parts that you're kind of angry with. So that is that question. Now for a slightly different question. A book that made you happy. So it depends on what we mean when we say happy. By happy, do we mean gleefully reading a chapter where a murderous main character murders men that wronged her? Because then I would say Iron Widow made me happy. But I think that's not exactly what we mean by this question. So I'll answer it in a more traditional, in a more sane sense. So I would say Most Ardently also made me extremely happy for very different reasons. Most Ardently is a Pride and Prejudice retelling. Basically, Pride and Prejudice, but make it really queer. And I am very here for that. So in this book, we follow Oliver, who was born as Elizabeth, but was like, I don't want to be a woman. That's not for me. I'm a dude. Throughout the first part of the book, we're just discovering Oliver. He goes to a friend's house to change his clothes. He goes out on the town by himself whenever he can, just to feel safe and to feel happy within his own skin. And through that, he meets Darcy. And they kind of hit it off. He hangs out with Darcy and Bingley and kind of makes new friends with those two. But then he also meets them at the ball. But get this, he meets them as Elizabeth. They don't recognize him. Luckily, he's very fearful that they might. But he has a very different relationship with Darcy as Elizabeth. They kind of hate each other. But little does Oliver know that has nothing to do with him necessarily, and everything to do with the fact that Darcy just doesn't really know how to communicate with people. Which, so fair, my dude. I totally get you. And then basically the rest of the book just follows along the lines very similarly to Pride and Prejudice. So if you're familiar with Pride and Prejudice, you will pretty much know what's going to happen in this novel, which is totally fine. Like, no qualms from me there. This is very happy, joyful. There's a lot of family acceptance, which was lovely. A lot of self-acceptance and self-discovery. And honestly, just a lot of, saying F you to the transphobes within the novel. Because there are some. If you are someone who really cannot read any sorts of gender dysphoria or transphobia, then maybe this book isn't for you. But I will say that it does, of course, have a very happy ending, and it's honestly very cute, very wholesome. This book just was honestly just a big smile in novel form. I highly recommend. I listened to the audiobook. It's really quick, really great. I would say Most Ardently for a book that made me happy. Next up is Most Beautiful Book You've Bought So Far This Year, or received. Oh, that's so tough. I think a lot of the books I have are really beautiful. I do really love the art on the covers of the Legendborn series. I'll show you Bloodmarked. I got this book this year. Beautiful. I don't know what to say. I think it's so pretty. And something I love also is the little sword decal on the end. It actually continues on the first book, and I'm assuming the third book will continue the sword. And so when you line them all up like this, it's gonna make a sword, which I think is really cool. I'd say this is a really beautiful copy. Oh, also, Blood of the Old Kings. I think this looks so beautiful. I saw this at a bookstore and I went there to buy a specific novel for a specific reason. And I ended up coming away with like 4 books. Yeah. And this is one of them because it was so beautiful. All right, the next and last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So, something that will likely not surprise you all is I would love to read the next book in the Legendborn series and the next book in the Iron Widow series, Heavenly Tyrant and Oathbound. I am unsure if I will be able to read these books this year as I have quite a large physical TBR. We'll see. But anyways, I would really like to read those 2 books. They also are currently only out in hardback, and as you saw, the rest of the series that I own is all in paperback. And I hate mixing paperback and hardback. Like, I don't care if I have a paperback book or if I have a hardback book, but I can't mix them. That pisses me off so much. So yes, those 2 books, unsurprisingly, would love to read, but things I need to read, absolutely have to read this year, include Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I also would love to read The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, which I also have a physical copy of somewhere else currently. I love Leigh Bardugo and I am so excited to read this book. I also would absolutely love to read, I feel like I have to read Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I listened to like the first 2 chapters of this audiobook and was like, I'm sold. I just need a silly little rom-com and I don't want to think. And so I went out and I bought this book. I was also having a bad day and I wanted to buy a book because it makes me happy. But that's why I have to read it. And I showed you it just a few minutes ago. Blood of the Old Kings is one that I really want to read. I've had it for quite a while now. I mean, really just the beginning of this year, but I mean, let alone the fact that it's beautiful. Just listen to this, y'all. In an empire run on necromancy, dead sorcerers are the lifeblood. Step into a world of necromancy, murder, and twisted magic. A world in need of a hero. The back of the book says, there is no escaping the empire. Even in death, you will serve. Come on, do you really even need to know what this book is about other than that? Necromancy, you need a hero, there's some like shady stuff going on. Sign me the hell up. I am so down. So yeah, that is Blood of the Old Kings. Also would love to read that. And just, I promise, one more. Africa Risen. This I bought, no. This I bought like 8 months ago, maybe. I have read maybe 5 of the short stories within this anthology, and she's on my shelf staring at me every day, guys. I want to read more of her. I bought this book for a class. It's basically just a short story collection of a bunch of sci-fi and fantasy and horror short stories by African authors, which I think is so cool. This genre is also referred to a lot as speculative fiction. It's a genre that is really championed by a lot of African writers and Black diaspora writers. So I'd really like to read some more stories in this book as well. So that was in fact the last question. I had a lot of fun telling you all about these books that I have read and loved, or not loved in some cases. I'm looking at you, Payback's a Witch. But yes, I've had a lot of fun. Thank you so much, so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you are so inclined, please hit the subscribe button, the thumbs up button, or comment. Let me know what your favorite books are so far this year. Books that made you cry. Do you have a fictional crush? I would love to know. What is your opinion on some of these books that I've talked about? Have you read Iron Widow or Legendborn? Because please, let's have a conversation in the comments. That sounds amazing. I would love to talk to someone about those books. If you are still here, oh my, thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye.